The twin sons of Zothola beat down mercilessly on Rayan's cracked lips as he stumbled through the crimson desert. His water canister had run dry 3 kilometers back, and the emergency beacon on his wrist blinked uselessly, no signal, no hope. The crash had scattered his crew across this godforsaken planet, and he was alone. Through the heat shimmer, a structure emerged. Not a mirage, he'd seen too many of those already. This was real, a massive hut constructed from bones and strange metallic sheets that seemed to pulse with bioluminescent veins. It was at least 15 meters tall, designed for something far larger than human. Rayan's survival training screamed warnings, but his body overruled his mind. He needed water. He needed shelter. He would die within the hour without either. His fist, small and pathetic against the enormous door, knocked 3 times. The ground trembled. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate, shaking dust from the doorframe. The entrance swung open, and Rayan's head tilted back and back and back. The giantess stood 4 meters tall, her skin a deep violet that reflected the sunlight in prismatic patterns. 4 arms, each thick with corded muscle, hung at her sides. Her face was vaguely humanoid: 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, but the proportions were all wrong, too wide, too angular. She wore armor made from chitinous plates, and her teeth, when she smiled, were like rows of obsidian daggers. "Well, well," she rumbled in accented but perfect galactic common. Her massive eyes swept over Rayan's frame with obvious disappointment. "You're not what I ordered." Rayan swayed on his feet. Please, water, The giantess, her species was Carvathy. He remembered from xenobiology briefings, leaned down, studying him like a curiosity. "Dying of thirst, and he knocks on my hut." She threw her head back and laughed, a sound like grinding boulders. "Not my order, little thing. I paid for the meaty one." Horror crept through Rayan's dehydration-addled mind. "Meaty one?" "The human delivery service promised me a proper specimen. Strong, fat with muscle and protein." One of her 4 hands gestured dismissively at his lean runner's build. "You're all sinew and bone? Barely worth the cooking fire." Despite his situation, indignation flared in Rayan's chest. I'm not food. I'm a survey officer with the Terran Exploration Corps. Blah, blah, titles." The giantess waved another hand. "Every meal has a story, little human. But you're right about one thing, you're too stringy to be worth my credits." She started to close the door. "Wait!" Rayan jammed his boot in the frame, immediately regretting it as pain shot through his foot. "I can work. I can pay you. Just ... please, water." The door stopped. One massive eye peered through the gap. "Work? You?" The amusement in her voice was palpable. "What could something so small possibly offer me?" Rayan's mind raced. This was what humans did. They survived. They adapted. They found angles. "Your settlement," he croaked. "I saw it from the air before we crashed. You're alone out here. Independent prospector?" The door opened slightly wider. "Go on. The tech in your walls bioluminescent Sarvian circuitry. Expensive, which means you're mining something valuable. But you're alone, which means you can't afford a crew, which means you're barely profitable." His engineer's training kicked in through the fog of dehydration. "I can see energy inefficiency from here. Your cooling systems are hemorrhaging power." The giantess's expression shifted from amused to interested. "Humans," Rayan continued, strength returning to his voice even as his body weakened, "we're small. We get into spaces you can't. We see details you miss. We improvise. It's what we do." He met her enormous eyes with his own. "Give me water, give me a chance, and I'll optimize your entire operation. Increase your profits by 20%, minimum." Silence stretched between them. The giantess's massive hand drummed against the doorframe, a sound like distant thunder. 20% is a bold claim for someone currently dying. 20% is a conservative estimate for someone who designed life support systems for deep space stations. Rayan allowed himself a small smile. "I'm worth more alive than dead, even to a Carvathy with questionable dietary preferences. The giantess snorted, a blast of hot air that nearly knocked Rayan over. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed again, but this time it was different. Genuine. You have spine, little human? Foolish spine, but spine nonetheless. She pulled the door fully open. I am Vermatha, and you have 1 week to prove your worth. A massive hand reached down, and Rayan flinched instinctively. But she only picked him up with surprising gentleness, carrying him inside where the temperature immediately dropped to something bearable. She set him down next to a water dispenser designed for someone 4 times his size. Drink, then work. And human? Vermatha's smile showed all those obsidian teeth. If you fail, I'll contact the delivery service for a refund and get the meaty one after all. Rayan gulped water from a container the size of his torso, already mentally cataloging the inefficiencies he'd spotted in her operation. His crew was still out there somewhere, and he'd need resources to mount a rescue. This partnership, however terrifying, was his best shot. You won't regret this, he said. I'd better not, Vermatha rumbled. You're costing me a perfectly good meal. As Rayan followed the giantess deeper into her workshop, past mining equipment that hummed with poorly calibrated energy signatures, he couldn't help but grin. This was the human edge, not strength, not size, but the stubborn refusal to be anything other than indispensable. He'd crashed on a planet where he was considered food. Within an hour, he'd negotiated himself into a job, humanity, indeed.